Turn around, campus charity. Nobody wants you taking up space here.
Let go of my arm before you turn this little performance into something you can't control.
Control? Girl, one call and this school forgets you exist.
Then call him, but take your hand off me first.
That mouth is exactly why people like you blow one chance and don't last at Hawthorne.
Grant struck her across the face, hard enough to kill every whisper in the courtyard.
That is what happens when somebody important gets tired of your attitude.
Ariana lifted her chin without saying a word, her eyes calm on his raised hand. Grant had no idea he had just slapped a woman who had survived real fighters, real pain, and cages far crueler than his family name. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The red brick courtyard stretched before Ariana Brooks, like a promise. Ancient oak trees cast long shadows across perfectly manicured pathways. Students moved in clusters, their voices mixing with the warm September breeze. Backpacks slung over shoulders, nervous laughter floating through the air. Ariana adjusted her messenger bag and took a deep breath. 23 years old, and finally here. Hawthorne State University, the place her father had dreamed she'd attend before cancer took him 5 years ago. "You're gonna change the world, baby girl," he'd whispered from his hospital bed. "Education is the one thing they can't take away from you." She wouldn't let him down. But something felt off. Eyes on her, watching. Across the courtyard, a blonde girl leaned against the fountain's stone edge. Designer clothes that probably cost more than Ariana's rent. Perfect makeup, despite the heat. She stared at Ariana with the kind of cold amusement rich people wore when they spotted something that didn't belong. Madison Whitaker. Ariana had seen her photos on the university website. Trustee's daughter, campus influencer, the kind of person who'd never worked a day in her life, but somehow had 50,000 followers. Madison whispered something to the tall guy beside her. He looked like Madison, but bigger, meaner. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass. His eyes held the same cruel amusement as his sister's. Grant Whitaker, former star athlete turned family golden boy. They both watched Ariana like vultures eyeing fresh meat. Ariana turned away. She hadn't come here for drama. She'd come for her master's degree in communications. Nothing else mattered. Professor Daniel Mercer's ethics seminar drew a huge crowd. The lecture hall buzzed with energy. Students filled every seat. Some even stood along the walls. Word had spread that today's debate would be intense. "The topic is privilege and accountability," Professor Mercer announced from behind the podium. His gray hair was slightly messy. His tie hung crooked, but his eyes were sharp and kind. "Who believes that wealth creates moral obligations?" Hands shot up across the room. Ariana raised hers too. Madison's manicured fingers waved lazily. "I think that's totally unfair," she said when called upon. Her voice carried that sing-song quality of someone used to being agreed with. Just because someone's family worked hard doesn't mean they owe anything to people who didn't. That's basically punishing success. Murmurs of agreement rippled through her social circle. "Anyone disagree?" Professor Mercer asked. Ariana's hand went up. "I do." Every head turned. Madison's smile tightened. "Please, elaborate," Professor Mercer said. Ariana stood. Her voice was calm but clear. "With great power comes great responsibility. That's not punishment. That's basic decency. When you have resources others don't, you have choices others don't. How you use those choices reveals who you really are." "That's easy to say," Madison shot back. Her mask was slipping. "But you don't understand what it's like to have people constantly expecting things from you just because your family has money." "You're right," Ariana said. "I don't understand that. But I do understand what it's like to watch your father die because he couldn't afford better cancer treatment. I understand working 3 jobs to pay for school while rich kids complain about their trust fund pressure." The room went dead silent. Madison's cheeks flushed red. "That's not my fault." "No one said it was," Ariana continued, "but pretending systemic advantages don't exist? That's willful ignorance. And willful ignorance from privileged people isn't harmless. It protects broken systems that hurt everyone else." Students began to nod. Someone clapped. Then another person. Soon half the room was applauding. Professor Mercer smiled. "Excellent points, Ms. Brooks." Madison's face had turned stone cold. Her friends shifted uncomfortably. Grant's knuckles were white where he gripped his phone. For the first time in her life, Madison Whitaker had been publicly embarrassed, out-argued, made to look foolish in front of people who mattered. She hated every second of it. After class, students filed out in chattering groups. Ariana packed her notebook slowly. She'd made her point, maybe too strongly, but her father's voice echoed in her mind. Never shrink yourself to make others comfortable. The courtyard fountain bubbled peacefully as Ariana emerged from the building. She was almost to the parking lot when footsteps approached from behind. "Well, well," Madison's voice dripped fake sweetness. "The new girl." Ariana turned. Madison stood there with her perfect smile, but her eyes were ice cold. "Hi," Ariana said simply. "I wanted to welcome you to Hawthorne," Madison continued. "It's such a wonderful place. Very traditional. We have certain ways of doing things here, certain expectations about how people behave. Okay. Some people think they can come here and shake things up, challenge the natural order." Madison's smile never wavered. "But those people usually learn pretty quickly that actions have consequences. This isn't some community college where everyone gets a participation trophy." Ariana's jaw tightened. "Are you threatening me?" "Threatening?" Madison laughed. The sound was sharp as broken glass. "Of course not. I'm just giving you some friendly advice. Know your place. Don't try to act above it. Things go much smoother that way. And if I don't?" Madison's smile finally dropped. "Then you'll find out how Hawthorne really works." Ariana stepped closer. She was several inches taller than Madison. Her voice stayed calm but firm. "I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Why? Because your daddy's rich? Because you think you own this place?" Ariana shook her head. "I've dealt with bullies before. You're nothing special." Madison's face twisted with fury. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Ever. Grant appeared beside his sister. His presence was meant to intimidate. All 6'3" of him loomed over Ariana. But Ariana didn't flinch, didn't step back. She'd learned long ago that backing down only made bullies bolder. Madison turned to Grant and said, "Ariana needs to be taught how Hawthorne works." Ariana turned her back on the Whitaker siblings and walked toward the student center. Her heart pounded, but she kept her pace steady. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her run. Behind her she heard Madison's voice rise. "Come on, let's go introduce ourselves properly." Footsteps followed. Multiple sets. Ariana glanced back. Madison walked with her usual crew. Tessa Vale, the blonde with the designer handbag, and Brooke Larkin, who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Two boys in varsity jackets flanked them. One was tall and lean with perfectly styled hair. The other was stockier, with the cocky swagger of someone who'd never been challenged. They weren't trying to be subtle. Students in the courtyard were starting to notice. "Hey, new girl," Tessa called out. "Love your outfit. Very thrift store chic." Brooke giggled. "Is that from Walmart? So authentic." Ariana kept walking. She'd heard worse, much worse. "I heard she's here on scholarship," the lean boy said loudly. "One of those diversity admissions. You know how it works." The stockier one laughed. "Daddy didn't buy her way in like the rest of us." Madison's voice carried over the group. "She thinks she's so smart, like she can just waltz in here and show us all up. Doesn't she know this isn't how things work?" They were getting closer. Ariana could feel them right behind her now. "Must be nice," Tessa said. "Getting everything handed to you. Free ride while the rest of us actually pay." "I bet she practices her little speeches in the mirror," Brooke added, trying to sound all intellectual and sophisticated. Ariana stopped walking. She turned around slowly. "You have something to say to me?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Madison stepped forward. "We're just being friendly, getting to know our new classmate." "This is friendly?" "Of course." Madison's smile was poison sweet. "We're just curious about your background, your story, how someone like you ends up at a place like Hawthorne." "Someone like me? You know what I mean." Madison's eyes glittered with malice. "Someone who's clearly out of their element. Someone who doesn't understand the culture here." Grant moved closer. He used his size like a weapon, looming over Ariana. His cologne was expensive and overwhelming. "My sister's trying to help you," he said. His voice was low, threatening. "You might want to listen." Ariana looked up at him without flinching. "Back up." "Excuse me? You heard me. Back up. Now." Grant's face darkened. "You don't tell me what to do." He stepped even closer, close enough that Ariana could feel his breath, close enough that anyone watching would see the intimidation clearly. "I'm warning you," Ariana said quietly. "Don't touch me." "Or what?" Grant's voice was barely above a whisper. "What are you going to do about it?" The circle tightened around them. Madison watched with satisfaction. Tessa and Brooke exchanged excited glances. The varsity boys crossed their arms, blocking escape routes. Students throughout the courtyard were stopping to stare. Some pulled out phones. "Is there a problem here?" Professor Mercer's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He approached with quick, purposeful steps. His eyes took in the scene immediately. The tight circle, Grant's aggressive posture, Ariana's defensive stance. "Professor Mercer!" Madison's voice shifted instantly, sweet as honey. "We were just welcoming Ariana to campus, getting to know her better." "How thoughtful!" Mercer's tone was dry. He looked directly at Grant. "Mr. Whitaker, you seem to be standing very close to Ms. Brooks." Grant stepped back with obvious reluctance. "Just talking." "I see." Mercer turned to Ariana. "Ms. Brooks, weren't you headed to the student center? I believe the financial aid office closes early on Fridays." It was a lifeline. Ariana grabbed it. "Yes, sir. Thank you for reminding me." "Of course. These administrative deadlines can be so important for scholarship students." Madison's smile twitched at the emphasis, but she couldn't complain without looking petty in front of a professor. Ariana walked away with as much dignity as she could manage. Behind her, she heard Professor Mercer engaging the group in pointed conversation about campus civility policies. Several students had definitely been recording. She'd seen at least 3 phones pointed in their direction. That could be good or bad, depending on what they'd captured. By the time she reached her dorm room, Ariana's hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. She'd handled herself well, but the confrontation left her unsettled. These people weren't going to stop. They saw her as a threat to their little kingdom. Her roommate wasn't back yet. Ariana sat on her narrow bed and opened her laptop. She had reading to do for Monday's classes. Work would help clear her head. That's when she saw the notification. A friend request on social media from someone at Hawthorne. Then another. Then 5 more. Her stomach dropped when she clicked through to see what they were sharing. Someone had already posted a video. The caption read, "New girl thinks she runs the place now. Delusional. Know your place." But it wasn't the full confrontation. It was edited, carefully. It showed Ariana saying, "You don't tell me what to do," and "Don't touch me." But not Grant's intimidation, not Madison's cruel comments, not the context, just Ariana looking aggressive and confrontational toward a group of smiling, innocent students. The video was already spreading. Ariana's phone buzzed against her nightstand like an angry wasp. Then again, and again. She cracked one eye open to see the screen lighting up, with notification after notification. Social media alerts, text messages, email warnings about activity on her accounts. Her stomach sank before she was even fully awake. The edited video had gone viral overnight, at least among Hawthorne students. Hundreds of views, dozens of comments, all of them brutal. Who does this girl think she is? Scholarship kids always have attitudes. Madison was just being nice, and this is how she responds? Someone needs to put her in her place. The worst part was how convincing the edit looked. Without context, Ariana really did appear to be the aggressor. Confrontational, arrogant, everything Madison had wanted people to think. Her roommate's bed was already empty. Classes didn't start for 2 hours, but Ariana needed coffee and food. Maybe the dining hall would be mostly empty this early. She was wrong. The moment Ariana walked into Reeves Hall, conversations stopped. Students looked up from their breakfast trays to stare. Some whispered behind their hands. Others weren't even trying to hide their pointing. At the coffee station, 2 girls in matching sorority sweatshirts were loud enough for everyone to hear. "Did you see that video? The new girl going off on Madison Whitaker?" Madison was being so sweet, too, just trying to welcome her. "I heard she's on scholarship. Probably feels threatened by girls who actually belong here." Ariana's hand tightened around her coffee cup. She wanted to turn around and correct them, tell them what really happened, but that would only make things worse. Instead, she grabbed a banana and found an empty table in the corner. She ate quickly, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed her every move. After breakfast, she walked straight to the administration building. If the university had policies against harassment, someone needed to enforce them. The edited video was clearly meant to damage her reputation. There had to be rules about that. The dean's office was on the 3rd floor. Rich mahogany doors with brass nameplate. Richard Holloway, Dean of Student Affairs. His assistant looked up from her computer with the expression of someone already annoyed by whatever request was coming. "I need to report harassment," Ariana said. "Other students have been posting false videos about me online." The woman, her nameplate read Patricia Mills, sighed like this was the most ridiculous thing she'd heard all week. "Student tension is normal during the first few weeks of school, honey. Everyone's still figuring out where they fit in. This isn't tension. It's deliberate harassment. They edited a video to make me look..." "Look, sweetie." Patricia's voice was patronizing. "College is about learning to get along with all kinds of people. Maybe instead of running to administration, you should try talking to these students directly. Work it out like adults." Ariana felt heat rising in her chest. "I tried talking to them. That's when they started filming." "Well, maybe there's something to be learned from that, too." Patricia turned back to her computer screen. "The dean is very busy. I'm sure you can handle some social media drama on your own." The dismissal was clear. Ariana wanted to argue, but she could see it would be pointless. These people had already decided she was the problem. By the time she got to Professor Mercer's ethics class, her mood was dark. She took her usual seat in the 3rd row, hoping to blend in. Madison sat 2 rows ahead, surrounded by her usual crowd. When she spotted Ariana, her face lit up with fake concern. "Professor Mercer," Madison said, raising her hand before class had even started, "I wanted to address something that happened yesterday, for the safety of all students." Mercer looked up from his notes. "What's on your mind, Ms. Whitaker?" Madison turned in her seat so everyone could see her worried expression. "The new student, Ariana, approached me and my friends yesterday. She was very aggressive, threatening, actually. I have it on video if you need proof." A murmur ran through the classroom. Students craned their necks to look at Ariana. Ariana's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "That's not what happened, and that video is edited to remove context." "Are you calling me a liar?" Madison's voice rose with practiced indignation. "I'm saying the full videos should be reviewed, not just the edited version you're sharing." Professor Mercer held up a hand for silence. His eyes moved between the 2 students. Something in his expression suggested he was noting details others might miss. Madison's confidence seemed too rehearsed, too prepared. "This sounds like something that should be discussed privately," he said finally. "After class." Madison smiled like she'd already won. "Of course, Professor. I just wanted everyone to be aware of the situation, for their own safety." Class proceeded, but Ariana could feel hostile eyes on her throughout the lecture. Madison had poisoned the well perfectly. One edited video and a public accusation were all it took. When class ended, students filed out while shooting suspicious glances at Ariana. She was packing her bag when someone dropped a folded piece of paper on her desk. Ariana looked up to see a quiet girl with natural hair and intelligent eyes walking away. She didn't recognize her, but something about her movement seemed purposeful. Ariana unfolded the note. "She's done this before. Meet me outside the library at 3 p.m. if you want to know more. N." She looked up again, but the girl had already disappeared into the hallway. That afternoon, Ariana stood outside Harrison Library scanning the faces of passing students. At exactly 3 p.m., the same girl from class approached. Up close, she looked nervous, but determined. "You're the one who left the note?" Ariana asked. The girl nodded. "I'm Nia Bell. I was in your ethics class. What did you mean about Madison doing this before?" Nia glanced around to make sure they weren't being watched. Then she leaned closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "My sister went here 3 years ago. Madison pulled the same thing with her. Videos, accusations, public humiliation. My sister tried to file complaints with the dean's office." Ariana's stomach clenched. "What happened to them?" Nia's expression was grim. "They vanished. Every single one." Nia's words hit Ariana like ice water. "Vanished? How does a complaint just vanish? That's what I'm trying to figure out." Nia's voice carried years of frustration. My sister Simone was brilliant, top of her journalism program. Then Madison decided she didn't like her asking questions about the university's donation policies in the student newspaper. They started walking toward the main campus as Nia continued. First came the social media attacks. Then the edited videos making Simone look aggressive and confrontational. Sound familiar? Ariana's jaw tightened. What happened to your sister? She tried fighting back through official channels, filed harassment complaints, provided evidence, even got witnesses to come forward. Nia's hands clenched into fists. Every single document disappeared from the system. The dean's office claimed they had no record of any complaints. Her witnesses suddenly changed their stories. That's impossible. There have to be backup systems, digital records. You'd think so. Nia stopped walking and turned to face Ariana. But when your family donates millions to build new buildings, people find ways to make problems disappear. The weight of what Nia was saying settled over Ariana. This wasn't just bullying. This was systematic suppression backed by money and power. Where's your sister now? Ariana asked quietly. Community college back home. Her scholarship got revoked for conduct violations that never officially existed. She couldn't afford to stay. Nia's voice cracked slightly. 3 years of perfect grades, gone. Her journalism career destroyed. All because she wouldn't bow down to Madison Whitaker. Ariana felt anger building in her chest. Not the hot, explosive kind that made people do stupid things. The cold, calculating anger that made her dangerous in the MMA ring. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you're different. Most students back down when they realize what they're up against. But you stood up to her in class today. You didn't apologize or try to smooth things over. Nia studied Ariana's face. I think you might actually fight back. They had reached the edge of the main courtyard, where banners and tents were being set up for the afternoon's Founders' Day celebration. Students, faculty, alumni, and donors were already gathering for the university's biggest annual event. There, Nia pointed toward the fountain area. Madison's holding court. Ariana looked across the courtyard. Madison stood surrounded by her usual circle, but today the group included well-dressed adults with donor badges and university officials. Grant loomed behind her, his varsity jacket gleaming in the afternoon sun. Local news cameras were positioned around the event, capturing the festivities. Perfect timing, Nia said grimly. Maximum audience, maximum humiliation. This is how she operates. As they walked closer, Ariana noticed students pointing at her and whispering. The edited video had done its work. She was already marked as the aggressor in most people's minds. Madison spotted them approaching, and her face lit up with fake concern. She whispered something to the adults around her, then stepped forward with her arms crossed. There she is, Madison called out loudly, her voice carrying across the courtyard. The girl who's been harassing me. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. The festive atmosphere shifted as people focused on the drama unfolding near the fountain. Ariana kept walking until she was within arm's reach of Madison. Grant stepped closer behind his sister, his smirk visible to everyone watching. Several phones appeared, already recording. I haven't harassed anyone, Ariana said clearly, but I'm not going to apologize for existing on this campus. Madison's eyes gleamed with calculated malice. You threatened me yesterday. Everyone saw the video. Now you're stalking me at university events. She turned to address the growing crowd. I just want to feel safe at my own school. Your school? Ariana's voice remained steady, but steel crept into her tone. This is a public university. I have every right to be here. Not when you're making other students feel unsafe. Madison stepped closer, her voice rising with practiced emotion. I'm asking you nicely to leave me alone and apologize for your behavior. The crowd murmured approval. To them, Madison looked like the victim, small, feminine, and tearful. Ariana looked like the threat, tall, confident, and unmoved by Madison's performance. I'm not apologizing for surviving your harassment, Ariana said firmly. Madison's mask slipped for just a moment. Pure fury flashed across her face before she caught herself, but it was too late. She had committed to this path. Her hand flew up and connected hard with Ariana's cheek. The sharp crack of the slap echoed across the suddenly silent courtyard. The courtyard erupted into chaos. Students rushed forward with phones raised high, capturing every angle. Campus security officers pushed through the crowd, their radios crackling with urgent calls for backup. "Nobody move!" Officer Martinez shouted as he reached the fountain area. "Everyone stay where you are." Ariana stood calmly over Madison and Grant, both still on the ground, looking dazed. Madison held her wrist, whimpering dramatically for the cameras. Grant struggled to sit up, his face red with embarrassment and rage. "She attacked us," Madison cried out, tears streaming down her cheeks. "She's dangerous." "That's not what happened," Naya called from the crowd. "Madison slapped her first." "We all saw it," another student yelled. "The rich girl started it." Officer Martinez stepped between Ariana and the Whitakers. "Miss, I need you to step back and keep your hands visible." Ariana raised her hands and took 2 steps backward. Her face remained composed, but her heart pounded. She had never been in trouble with campus security before. "Officer, she assaulted my sister," Grant said as he climbed to his feet. His expensive clothes were wrinkled and grass-stained. "This is completely unprovoked violence." "Unprovoked?" A voice from the crowd laughed harshly. "Your sister slapped her in the face." More security officers arrived, pushing the excited students back to create space around the fountain. Dean Holloway appeared at the edge of the crowd, his face grim as he surveyed the scene. "What exactly happened here?" Officer Martinez asked the crowd. "Madison Whitaker slapped the new girl." "The blonde one started it. She hit her twice." "The new girl just defended herself," Madison sobbed louder. "They're lying. She's been harassing me for days. I was just trying to get her to leave me alone." Officer Martinez looked at Ariana. "Miss, what's your version of events?" "Madison Whitaker approached me and demanded an apology," Ariana said clearly. "When I refused, she slapped me across the face. I told her not to do it again. She tried to hit me a second time. I defended myself using minimal necessary force." "Minimal?" Grant snarled. "You could have killed us." "If I wanted to hurt you, you'd know it," Ariana said flatly. The crowd's energy shifted. Students began pulling out their phones to review the footage they had captured. Excited voices rose as people compared videos and screenshots. "I got the whole thing. Look at this angle. She totally deserved it. Madison's been asking for this for years." Dean Holloway pushed through to Officer Martinez. "I need these students separated immediately. This situation is already out of control." Within minutes, campus security had escorted all 3 students to different locations. Ariana found herself in a small office in the security building, waiting while officers reviewed witness statements and phone footage. By evening, the videos were everywhere. Ariana's phone buzzed constantly with notifications. Hawthorne's slap was trending on multiple platforms. Comments poured in by the thousands, and most of them supported her completely. Rich girl got what she deserved. Finally, someone stood up to these entitled bullies. That takedown was clean. Madison Whitaker is a joke. Grant got handled. Students she had never met were messaging her with praise and support. The edited video that had made her look bad was now buried under dozens of clear recordings showing exactly what had happened. For the first time since arriving at Hawthorne, Ariana felt hopeful. The truth was out there. Everyone could see who the real aggressor was. Justice had been served in the most public way possible. She fell asleep that night, believing the nightmare was finally over. The next morning, her phone rang at 8:30. "Miss Brooks, this is Dean Holloway's office. The dean needs to see you immediately." Ariana dressed quickly and walked across campus with her head held high. Students pointed and waved as she passed. A few even applauded. She was a hero to them now. Dean Holloway's office was exactly what she expected. Dark wood paneling, expensive furniture, and diplomas covering every wall. The dean sat behind an enormous desk, his fingers steepled as she entered. "Sit down, Miss Brooks." His tone was cold and formal. Ariana felt her first hint of unease. "I've reviewed the incident from yesterday," Holloway continued, "along with witness statements and video evidence. Then you know I was defending myself." "What I know," Holloway said slowly, "is that you used excessive and dangerous force against 2 students who posed no real threat to you." Ariana stared at him. "Excuse me? Madison Whitaker weighs maybe 120 pounds. Grant Whitaker had no training in combat sports. Yet you used techniques that could have seriously injured both of them." They attacked me first. A slap does not justify what you did in response. Holloway opened a folder on his desk. After careful consideration, I'm suspending you from Hawthorne State University for 2 weeks, effective immediately. The words hit Ariana like a physical blow. You're suspending me? What about Madison and Grant? They will be receiving counseling about appropriate conflict resolution. Counseling? Ariana's voice rose. They assaulted me in front of hundreds of people. You are the one who escalated to violence, Miss Brooks. Your suspension is final. Holloway's expression remained unchanged. Security will escort you off campus within the hour. Ariana sat in stunned silence for several seconds. Then she stood up slowly. This is about money, isn't it? Madison's father is a trustee. Holloway's eye twitched slightly. This meeting is over. Ariana walked out of the administration building in a daze. Professor Mercer was waiting for her on the front steps. I heard, he said quietly. Walk with me. They headed toward the parking lot in silence. When they were away from other people, Mercer spoke again. The decision came from the board level. Madison's father made some calls. So they can just do whatever they want? That's how it's always worked here. Mercer stopped walking and faced her. Ariana, there's something else you need to know. You're not the first student the Whitakers have targeted. What do you mean? Over the past 3 years, at least 6 students have filed formal complaints against Madison or Grant. Harassment, assault, intimidation, academic sabotage. Mercer's voice was grim. Every single one of those students withdrew their complaints within a week. Why? Some transferred schools, others just disappeared from campus entirely. One student I knew personally said she was offered money to stay quiet. Ariana felt ice forming in her stomach. Are you saying? I'm saying the slap was just the beginning. They wanted you to fight back. Now they can paint you as the dangerous one, while they work behind the scenes to destroy your future. Ariana stared across the campus she had been forced to leave. Students walked between buildings, heading to classes she was no longer allowed to attend. In the distance, she could see the courtyard fountain where everything had changed. She had thought defending herself would end the harassment. Instead, it had opened a door she never knew existed. Ariana found a quiet bench near the campus library, away from the curious stares of students who recognized her from the viral videos. Her hands shook as she dialed her mother's number. Mom? Ariana? Honey? What's wrong? Evelyn Brooks's voice immediately shifted into the calm, steady tone she used during medical emergencies. They suspended me. The words came out in a rush. Madison slapped me twice. Grant tried to attack me, and I'm the one getting punished. Silence on the other end. Then Evelyn spoke carefully. Tell me exactly what happened. Ariana recounted the confrontation, the videos going viral, and Dean Holloway's cold dismissal. She could hear her mother breathing slowly, processing everything. Don't panic, Evelyn said finally. This isn't over. You defended yourself legally and appropriately. What you need now is documentation. Documentation? Every email, every witness, every conversation. Write down times and dates. If they're going to play dirty, you need to be smarter. Evelyn's nurse training kicked in. Your father always said powerful people count on regular folks giving up. Don't you dare give them what they want. After hanging up, Ariana walked toward the journalism building. Professor Mercer had texted her to meet him there in an hour. She needed answers before her world completely collapsed. The journalism building was quieter than the rest of campus. Most students were in afternoon classes. Ariana found Mercer's office on the 3rd floor. Nia Bell was already there, sitting across from Mercer's desk with a thick folder in her lap. Close the door, Mercer said when Ariana entered. She did, then took the empty chair next to Nia. What your mother told you was right, Mercer began. You need documentation, but the problem is, most of the official records have been altered or removed entirely. What do you mean? Ariana asked. Nia opened her folder and pulled out photocopied pages. I've been collecting information for 2 years, ever since my sister went through something similar. Your sister? Simone Bell. She was a sophomore when Grant Whitaker cornered her after a party. When she reported it, her complaint mysteriously got lost in the system. Nia's voice hardened. Then her grades started getting questioned. Professors who supported her suddenly became unavailable. She transferred to community college rather than fight it. Mercer leaned forward. That's the pattern. Students report misconduct by Madison or Grant. The complaints disappear. Then the students face academic problems, social isolation, or financial pressure until they leave. You said there were others, Ariana prompted. At least 2 I can name, Nia replied. Lena Ortiz and Marcus Reed, both juniors when they reported Grant for different incidents. Lena said he threatened her outside her dorm. Marcus claimed Grant sabotaged his senior thesis project. Where are they now? Lena works at a diner downtown, dropped out mid-semester. Marcus transferred to a school in Ohio. Nia pulled out more papers. But here's the thing. I found drafts of student newspaper articles that were never published. Stories about complaints against the Whitakers that got killed by the administration. Ariana felt anger building in her chest. So they've been doing this for years? At least since Grant was a student, Mercer confirmed. Maybe longer. I need proof, Ariana said. Not rumors or stories. Actual evidence I can show people. Mercer was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up and walked to a filing cabinet. What I'm about to show you could cost me my job. The administration has made it clear that faculty who don't stay in their lane face consequences. He pulled out a key and unlocked the bottom drawer. Inside were manila folders marked with dates going back 3 years, public archives, old complaint forms before they switched to digital filing, student newspaper drafts that were pulled at the last minute. Mercer looked directly at Ariana. If anyone asks, you found these yourself. Nia spread the documents across the desk. We need to build a timeline. Show the pattern before your hearing. Ariana picked up the first folder. Inside were handwritten complaint forms, emails, and what looked like financial records. But it was the newspaper draft on top that made her breath catch. The headline read, Trustee, Family, Accused Again. She opened the article and began reading the first paragraph. The byline was dated just 6 months ago. The fluorescent lights in Mercer's office hummed as Ariana spread the newspaper draft across his desk. Nia leaned over her shoulder while Mercer paced behind them. Listen to this, Ariana said, reading from the article. Lena Ortiz, a junior studying biology, filed a formal complaint against Grant Whitaker in March. According to sources, Whitaker followed her to her dormitory after a campus event and made threatening statements when she refused his advances. Keep reading, Nia urged. The complaint was initially accepted by Student Affairs. However, within 2 weeks, Ortiz faced academic probation for allegedly plagiarizing a lab report. The same report had received high marks from her professor just days before the complaint was filed. Mercer stopped pacing. That's exactly what happened to Marcus Reed. Perfect academic record until he reported Grant. Then suddenly, his thesis advisor found problems with his research. It says here that Lena withdrew the complaint after her scholarship was questioned. Ariana continued. She left Hawthorne at the end of that semester. Nia pointed to an address scribbled in the margin. Miller's Diner on Oak Street. That's where she works now. Ariana looked at the clock. 7:30 in the evening. Think she'll talk to us? Only one way to find out, Nia replied. Miller's Diner sat on a quiet street 3 blocks from campus. The neon sign flickered weakly in the October darkness. Through the windows they could see a young woman with tired eyes wiping down tables. That's Lena, Nia said as they approached the door. The bell chimed when they entered. Lena looked up, her expression immediately guarded when she saw Nia. We're closed, she said quietly. Lena Ortiz? Ariana stepped forward. I'm Ariana Brooks. I think we need to talk. Lena's face went pale. You're the girl who fought Madison Whitaker. I defended myself, Ariana corrected, just like you tried to do. Lena glanced toward the kitchen, then back at them. I don't know what you're talking about. Grant Whitaker, Nia said gently. The complaint you filed. What they did to you after. Lena's hands shook as she set down the dish rag. How do you know about that? Because they're trying to do the same thing to me, Ariana said. And I think you still have proof. For a long moment, Lena just stared at them. Then she walked to the front door and turned the lock. Sit down, she said. They slid into a corner booth while Lena poured 3 cups of coffee with trembling hands. I was stupid, Lena began. I thought the system would protect me. I thought filing a complaint was the right thing to do. What happened? Ariana asked. Grant cornered me outside Reynolds Hall after the spring formal. He was drunk, started saying gross things about what he wanted to do to me. When I tried to leave, he grabbed my arm and said, girls like me should be grateful for his attention. Nia leaned forward. Girls like you? Scholarship students. Poor kids. He made it clear he thought I owed him something. Lena's voice grew bitter. So I reported it. The Title IX coordinator seemed supportive. Said they'd investigate. But they didn't, Ariana guessed. Oh, they investigated all right. Investigated my background, my financial aid, my academic work. Lena laughed harshly. Suddenly, my biology professor found plagiarism in a lab report I'd written myself. My scholarship advisor started questioning my need-based aid. My roommate moved out because Madison's friends made her life hell for living with me. Madison was involved? She led the campaign. Posted about me on social media. Never used my name, but everyone knew. Called me a liar. Said I was trying to ruin her brother's reputation for attention. Lena wiped her eyes. Within a month, I was failing classes I'd been acing. My professors stopped returning emails. I couldn't afford a tutor, and my friends were too scared to help me. Ariana felt sick. So you withdrew the complaint. I had to. It was that, or get kicked out for academic failure. Lena stared into her coffee. At least this way I could transfer somewhere else and start over. Do you still have evidence? Nia asked quietly. Messages? Emails? Anything? Lena was quiet for a long time. He sent me texts after I filed the complaint, threatening ones, and Madison's friends left voicemails. You kept them? I was scared to delete them. Scared not to delete them. Lena looked up at Ariana. Why should I trust you? What makes you different from everyone else who said they'd help? Because I'm not going anywhere, Ariana said firmly. They suspended me, but I'm fighting it. And I'm not fighting alone. Lena studied her face, then slowly nodded. The next morning, Ariana sat in her dorm room with her laptop open. Nia had managed to contact Marcus Reed through LinkedIn, and he'd agreed to a video call. Marcus appeared on screen, a serious-looking young man with glasses and cautious eyes. I saw the videos, he said without preamble. Madison and Grant getting taken down. Part of me cheered. I heard you reported Grant, too, Ariana said. Marcus's expression darkened. Biggest mistake of my life. I was a senior, 3 months from graduating with honors. Grant sabotaged my thesis presentation, made me look like a fool in front of the committee. When I reported it, Dean Holloway personally called me into his office. What did he say? That Grant was a valuable alumnus with a bright future, that I was making serious accusations against a trustee's son, that maybe I should reconsider whether Hawthorne was the right fit for me. Marcus's voice grew tight. He didn't threaten me outright. He was too smart for that. But the message was clear. You transferred. I transferred. Lost a semester of credits. Had to start my thesis over at a new school. Marcus leaned closer to the camera. But here's what you need to know. Holloway didn't just pressure me. He had my academic records in front of him, knew exactly how to hurt me. This wasn't random. It was calculated. Ariana felt the pieces clicking together. How many others do you think there are? More than you'd expect. Fewer than there should be, because most people don't report in the first place. They know what happens to those who do. After the call ended, Ariana sat staring at her laptop screen. This wasn't just bullying. It wasn't even just corruption. It was a system designed to protect the Whitakers at any cost. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Madison had posted a new video. Ariana clicked play and watched Madison, eyes red and puffy, speaking directly to the camera. I want to address what happened yesterday, Madison said, her voice trembling. I was assaulted by another student in front of dozens of witnesses. I'm scared to walk around my own campus now. The person who attacked me has a history of violence and aggression, but the administration is too afraid of bad publicity to protect students like me. The video already had 3,000 views and hundreds of supportive comments. Madison was playing the victim perfectly, rewriting history in real time. Ariana's phone buzzed again. A text from Nia. Lena just sent the screenshots. Later that afternoon, Ariana hurried across campus to the journalism building, clutching her phone with Lena's screenshots. The brick pathways felt different now. Every student she passed could be another victim. Every administrator could be part of the cover-up. She found Mercer in his cramped office, surrounded by stacks of papers and old yearbooks. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across his weathered face. Lena came through, Ariana said, sliding into the chair across from his desk. She kept everything. Mercer adjusted his reading glasses as Ariana showed him the screenshots on her phone. The messages were worse than she'd expected. Grant's threats were specific and vicious. "You think you can ruin my family's reputation, you stupid brat? I'll make sure you never work anywhere in this state. Daddy's lawyers will bury you in court fees until you're homeless. Maybe you should transfer before something bad happens to you." Mercer's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the messages. "These are dated March 15th, 3 years ago. Let me check something." He pulled out a thick folder marked Student Disciplinary Records, Public Archive. His fingers moved quickly through the pages until he found what he was looking for. "Here, Lena Ortiz's official complaint against Grant Whitaker." He held up a document. "Filed March 22nd, 3 years ago." Ariana frowned. That's a week after those messages, but the messages are clearly in response to her complaint. "Exactly." Mercer set the papers side by side. Someone changed the dates in the official record, made it look like Grant's threats came before Lena's complaint, not after. That would make her look like she was filing false charges to get revenge. The office door opened, and Nia slipped inside. Her usual composed demeanor was cracked, her hands shaking slightly as she closed the door behind her. "I need to tell you something," she said without greeting, "about why I'm really here at Hawthorne." Ariana and Mercer looked up from the documents. Nia took a shaky breath. "My sister, Simone Bell, was a student here 3 years ago. She had a full academic scholarship. She was going to be the first person in our family to graduate college." The room went quiet, except for the buzzing fluorescent light. "Grant assaulted her at a party," Nia continued, her voice growing stronger. "She reported it immediately. Had witnesses, had evidence. The university opened an investigation." "What happened?" Ariana asked, though she already dreaded the answer. 2 weeks later, her scholarship was revoked. Academic misconduct, they said. Cheating on exams she'd never taken. Plagiarism on papers she'd written herself. When she tried to appeal, Dean Holloway told her she should be grateful they weren't pursuing criminal charges against her for filing false reports. Mercer leaned forward. She was forced out. She was destroyed. Nia's voice cracked. "My brilliant, strong sister who tutored kids in math for free and worked 2 jobs to help pay for groceries. They made her look like a liar and a cheat. She couldn't transfer her credits anywhere decent. She's working retail now, barely getting by." Ariana felt sick. "That's why you're here. You came to find out what happened to her." "I spent 2 years planning this, got accepted, enrolled, started looking for other victims. I thought if I could find enough people, build enough evidence." Nia wiped her eyes, but everyone was too scared to talk, until you showed up and punched Grant Whitaker in front of half the campus. Mercer was already reaching for his laptop. Simone would have kept backups. Email records, documents. Students always do when they're being threatened. She did. Nia pulled out her phone. "I still have access to her old university email." She forwarded everything to her personal account before they deleted it. Her fingers flew across the screen, pulling up months-old email chains. The first one made Ariana's blood run cold. It was from Dean Holloway himself, sent 2 days after Simone's complaint was filed. "Miss Bell, I strongly advise you to reconsider your recent allegations. Young Mr. Whitaker comes from a respected family with deep ties to this institution. False accusations can have serious consequences for your academic standing and future prospects. Perhaps we should meet to discuss a more constructive path forward." "He knew," Ariana whispered. "Holloway knew Grant was dangerous, and he protected him anyway." Nia scrolled to another email. This one was from Simone to her sister, sent the night before she was kicked out. "They're going to destroy me, Nia. I can feel it. Holloway called me in today and showed me a file of evidence against me that didn't exist yesterday. Fabricated test results. Essays I never wrote. He said I had 24 hours to withdraw voluntarily or face criminal charges. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared." The office fell silent. Through the window, Ariana could see students walking across the quad, laughing and talking, oblivious to the rot beneath their perfect campus. "My sister didn't quit," Nia said, her voice hard as steel. "They erased her." The hearing room felt like a courtroom. Ariana sat at a small table with Professor Mercer beside her, facing a panel of 3 administrators. Dean Holloway occupied the center chair, flanked by Associate Dean Patricia Mills and Student Affairs Director Robert Kane. The morning light streaming through tall windows did nothing to warm the cold, sterile atmosphere. "Miss Brooks," Holloway began, his voice smooth as glass, "you're here because you used excessive force against fellow students. The university takes violence very seriously." Ariana kept her voice steady. "I defended myself after being physically assaulted. I have proof." She slid her phone across the table. The video played clearly. Madison's first slap, Ariana's warning, Madison's second attempted strike, and Ariana's controlled response. Grant's aggressive lunge and subsequent takedown followed in crystal-clear detail. "As you can see," Mercer said, "Miss Brooks was attacked first. She used only the minimum force necessary to protect herself." Holloway barely glanced at the screen. The video shows Miss Brooks escalating the situation with provocative language. "Provocative language?" Ariana's voice rose. "I told her not to hit me again. How is that provocative? Your tone was aggressive, because someone had just slapped me." The door opened. Nia Bell entered quietly and approached the panel. "I have additional evidence to submit." Holloway's jaw tightened. "Miss Bell, this hearing doesn't concern you. It concerns every student who's been silenced by this administration." Nia placed a thick folder on the table. "These are emails from my sister, Simone Bell, documenting harassment by Grant Whitaker and threats from this office." Holloway's face went white. "That's privileged information. It's evidence of a pattern." Mercer opened the folder and read aloud. "Dean Holloway to Simone Bell. False accusations can have serious consequences for your academic standing. This was sent after she reported being assaulted." Associate Dean Mills shifted uncomfortably. Director Kane leaned forward to read the documents, his expression growing darker. "These emails prove the university has protected Grant Whitaker before," Nia continued. "My sister was threatened into silence. How many others?" Holloway stood abruptly. "This hearing is about Miss Brooks's conduct, not unfounded conspiracy theories." "Then explain why official disciplinary records show different dates than the original emails," Mercer challenged. A soft knock interrupted the tension. A nervous woman in her 40s peered through the door. Patrice Wynne from Student Records looked terrified but determined. "Professor Mercer, could I speak with you privately?" Holloway's voice cracked like a whip. "Mrs. Wynne, return to your office immediately." But Patrice was already whispering urgently to Mercer. Ariana caught fragments. "Original logs, before they were changed, and I made copies." Mercer's eyes lit up. "Mrs. Wynne has proof that disciplinary records were altered to protect certain students." The room erupted. Holloway slammed his hand on the table. "This hearing is over. Miss Brooks's suspension stands." "Actually," Director Kane said quietly, "I think we need to review all this evidence carefully before making any final decisions." 2 hours later, Ariana walked across campus feeling lighter than she had in days. Mercer had called an investigative reporter named Claire Voss during the break. By evening, Claire had agreed to meet them at a coffee shop downtown. The coffee bean was nearly empty when they arrived. Claire Voss looked exactly like Ariana had imagined, sharp-eyed, mid-30s, with graying hair and a notebook already open. She reviewed Simone's emails, the altered records, and Patrice's evidence with professional skepticism. "This is serious," Claire said finally. "A trustee's family systematically protected while victims are silenced? The public needs to know." For the first time since the slap heard around campus, Ariana felt real hope. The truth was finally getting the platform it deserved. Walking back to campus in the twilight, Ariana spotted Madison near the journalism building. Their eyes met across the quad. Madison's usual confident smirk was gone, replaced by something Ariana had never seen before: genuine fear. Madison turned and hurried away, pulling out her phone frantically. The parking lot was nearly empty when Ariana reached her car. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned to find Grant Whitaker approaching, his face twisted with rage. "You think you're so smart," he snarled, stepping close enough that she could smell alcohol on his breath. "Running to reporters, digging up old lies about my family." Ariana pulled out her phone and hit record. "Stay back, Grant. You have no idea what you're messing with. My father owns half this town. One phone call, and your scholarship disappears. One email, and no graduate school will touch you." His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Drop this crusade, or I'll destroy your future so completely you'll wish you'd never heard of Hawthorne. Are you threatening me?" Grant smiled coldly. "I'm promising you." He walked away without another word, leaving Ariana alone under the parking lot lights. Her phone was still recording. Every word was captured clearly. That night, Ariana sent the audio file to Claire Voss with a simple message. Grant Whitaker threatening a witness. The truth is unstoppable now. The morning sun cast long shadows across the journalism building as Ariana climbed the stairs to Professor Mercer's office. Her backpack felt lighter today, filled with hope instead of dread. Patrice Wynne had promised to meet them at 9 o'clock sharp, with the original disciplinary logs that would prove everything. Mercer's door was already open when she arrived. He sat behind his desk, staring at his computer screen with a frown that made Ariana's stomach drop. "Where's Mrs. Wynne?" Ariana asked, settling into the chair across from him. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Mercer's fingers flew across the keyboard. Her university email bounced back. "Says the account doesn't exist anymore." Ariana pulled out her phone and dialed Patrice's number. The call went straight to a robotic voice. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." "Professor, this doesn't make sense." She was terrified yesterday, but she wanted to help. She said the truth mattered more than her job. Mercer's face grew darker as he clicked through various university portals. "My access to the student records database has been revoked. My login credentials no longer work for any administrative files." The office phone rang. Mercer grabbed it on the first ring. "Professor Mercer speaking?" "Yes, Claire, we're here." "What do you mean?" Paused. His face went pale. "Legal threats? From whom?" Ariana leaned forward, trying to catch Claire's voice through the speaker. The reporter's words came through in urgent, clipped sentences. "Hawthorne's law firm contacted my editor at 6 this morning." Mercer repeated for Ariana's benefit. "They're claiming we obtained confidential documents through illegal means. The paper's legal team advised pulling the story until they can review everything." "But we didn't do anything illegal," Ariana protested. "Mrs. Wynne volunteered that information." Mercer held up a hand as Claire continued speaking. His expression grew grimmer with each passing second. "I understand. Yes, I know you believe the story. No, we can't blame you for protecting the paper." He hung up and rubbed his temples. "Claire's hands are tied. Her editor won't run anything without rock-solid legal protection." A sharp knock interrupted them. Ariana turned to see Dean Holloway standing in the doorway with 2 security guards flanking him. "Professor Mercer, you're needed in my office, immediately." "What's this about, Richard?" Holloway's smile was ice-cold. "Misuse of university files, violation of student privacy protocols, unprofessional conduct with a suspended student." His eyes shifted to Ariana. "Miss Brooks, you're trespassing. Campus security will escort you out." "This is insane," Ariana said, standing up. "Professor Mercer did nothing wrong." "Pack your office, Daniel," Holloway continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Your suspension is effective immediately pending a full investigation." Mercer's face flushed red. "You can't silence the truth forever, Richard. There is no truth to silence. Miss Brooks's wild accusations have been thoroughly investigated and found baseless. The university will not tolerate faculty members who abuse their positions to pursue personal vendettas." The security guards stepped forward. One of them, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." Ariana grabbed her backpack, her mind reeling. Everything was falling apart so fast she could barely process it. "Professor, this isn't over." "Miss Brooks," Holloway called as she reached the door, "your final disciplinary hearing is scheduled for tomorrow morning. I suggest you prepare to accept responsibility for your actions." By noon, news of Ariana's unfounded accusations had spread across campus. Students who had supported her after the viral video now whispered behind her back. The narrative was shifting again, and this time it wasn't in her favor. Nia found her sitting alone in the campus center, scrolling through social media in horror. Madison's latest video had already reached 50,000 views. "The truth always wins," Madison said to the camera, her eyes sparkling with tears of joy. "I'm just grateful this nightmare is over. Some people will do anything for attention, but Hawthorne protects students who need it most." The comments below were brutal. Students who had once called Madison a privileged bully were now praising her strength. Ariana's name appeared in dozens of cruel memes and angry posts. "They're destroying you," Nia whispered, sliding into the seat beside her. "They're destroying all of us." Ariana showed her Mercer's suspension notice, which had been posted publicly on the university website. "Professor Mercer lost his job for helping us. Mrs. Wynne disappeared. Claire can't publish the story." Nia's face crumpled. "My sister will never get justice. I really thought we had them this time." "So did I. What happens now?" Ariana closed her laptop and shouldered her backpack. "I don't know. Maybe Grant was right. Maybe his family really does own this whole town." The walk back to her dorm felt endless. Students avoided eye contact or openly stared as she passed. Someone had written "liar" in red marker on her door. She scrubbed it off with a wet paper towel, but the faint outline remained visible. Inside her small room, Ariana pulled out her single suitcase and began folding clothes mechanically. Her scholarship paperwork lay scattered across the desk, along with acceptance letters from other schools that no longer mattered. Grant's threat echoed in her mind. No graduate school would touch her now. Her phone buzzed with another notification. Another cruel comment. Another stranger calling her a fraud. Ariana turned off the phone and continued packing. The suitcase was barely half full, but it contained everything that mattered. Everything she had left after Hawthorne State University finished destroying her future. The room fell silent except for the sound of zippers closing and dreams ending. That same night, Ariana folded her last sweater into the suitcase when 3 sharp knocks echoed through her door. She ignored them. More harassment wasn't what she needed right now. The knocks came again, more insistent. "Ariana, it's me!" Nia's voice was muffled but urgent. "Please open the door." Ariana hesitated, then turned the lock. Nia stood in the hallway clutching a dusty cardboard box against her chest. Her eyes were red from crying, but her jaw was set with determination. "You can't leave yet," Nia said, pushing past her into the room. "There's nothing left to fight for." Ariana gestured at her packed suitcase. "They won. Mercer lost his job. Mrs. Wynne vanished. The story is dead." "No." Nia set the box on the bed with reverent care. "I should have shown you this sooner. I was scared it would get damaged or stolen." "What is it?" "Simone's things. The ones she couldn't take when they forced her out." Nia opened the box with trembling fingers. Inside were notebooks, old textbooks, and a battered laptop wrapped in a torn pillowcase. She worked part-time in the IT department her sophomore year, before everything happened. Ariana stared at the ancient laptop. The screen was cracked, and one corner looked like it had been dropped downstairs. "This thing probably doesn't even turn on." "It doesn't, but look." Nia pulled out a small black device from beneath the notebooks. "Backup drive. Simone told me she kept copies of everything from her campus job. Email archives, security logs, administrative files. I never knew what any of it meant back then." "Nia, we already tried this. All the evidence disappeared." "Not this evidence." Nia's voice grew stronger. "This is from before they knew anyone was looking, before they had time to clean up their tracks." Ariana picked up the drive. It was scratched and dusty, but the USB connector looked intact. "Professor Mercer showed me how to recover damaged files. He said deleted data usually stays hidden on drives for years, unless someone specifically overwrites it. So you can check?" "Maybe." Ariana pulled out her laptop and connected the drive. The computer hummed, then displayed a password prompt. "It's locked." Nia leaned over her shoulder. "Try her birthday, June 15th, 1997. The drive unlocked instantly. Hundreds of files appeared on the screen. Ariana's breath caught as she read the folder names. Complaint, archives, administrative emails, disciplinary records, security footage, logs. "Oh my God," she whispered. The first folder contained original complaint forms dating back 5 years. Not the sanitized versions from official records, but the raw reports filed by students. Ariana found Lena Ortiz's complaint, exactly as Lena had described it, with detailed timestamps and witness statements. Then she found Marcus Reed's report. The official version claimed he filed a vague harassment complaint. The original described Grant Whitaker cornering him in a bathroom and threatening violence if Marcus didn't drop a class where Grant was failing. "There's so much more," Nia breathed, scrolling through file after file. Look at this. The administrative emails folder revealed conversations between Holloway and trustees. Ariana read one exchange from 2 years ago where a donor explicitly requested that his son's minor incident be handled quietly. Another email thread showed Holloway coordinating with campus security to delete footage from specific dates and locations. They've been doing this for years, Ariana said, her voice growing cold with fury. This is systematic. Keep looking. The most damaging folder was labeled Patrice Backup 2023. Inside were recent files that proved Mrs. Wynne had been secretly copying documents for months before disappearing. Screenshots of altered records, audio recordings of Holloway instructing staff to lose paperwork, financial documents showing payments to families who agreed not to press charges. Ariana found an email from just last week. Patrice writing to an address she didn't recognize. The Brooks case is getting attention. Recommend immediate damage control. Have copies of everything hidden safely off campus. Mrs. Wynne was protecting evidence the whole time, Nia said. She knew they would try to destroy it. Ariana scrolled deeper into the files. Security camera logs showing footage deliberately deleted from the night Marcus Reed was cornered. Budget documents proving the university hired private investigators to dig up dirt on complaining students. Email chains between Madison's father and Holloway planning Ariana's suspension before the hearing even happened. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and unlike everything they had gathered before. This came from inside the system itself. They can't claim these are fake, Ariana said, her voice hardening. These are their own files, their own words. So what do we do? Ariana looked at her packed suitcase, then back at the screen full of corruption and cover-ups. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. If you leave now, they'll do this to someone else tomorrow. She closed the laptop and moved the suitcase to the floor. We're done asking permission. The diner sat empty except for a tired waitress wiping down tables. Dawn light filtered through smudged windows as Ariana and Nia slid into a corner booth. Steam rose from 3 cups of black coffee. Professor Mercer looked older than his 58 years. His suspension had carved deep lines around his eyes, but his hands were steady as he opened his laptop and connected Simone's recovered drive. They think firing me makes this go away, he said quietly. They're wrong. Ariana spread printed files across the scratch table, email threads, financial records, security logs, the evidence Patrice Wynne had risked everything to preserve. Claire Voss won't touch this alone, Mercer continued, scrolling through documents. Too much legal pressure from Hawthorne's attorneys. But if multiple outlets get it simultaneously, they can't threaten everyone at once. Nia finished. Mercer nodded and pulled up his contacts list. Years of journalism connections, independent reporters who couldn't be bought, civil rights organizations that specialized in education cases. Federal investigators take time, he said, typing quickly. But Title IX violations this clear, they have to act. Ariana watched him work. Her phone buzzed with another hateful message about the viral video of her fight with Madison. Students still believed she was the problem. The university's version of events controlled the narrative. For now, I want to record a statement, she said suddenly. Mercer looked up. Are you sure? Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Good. I'm tired of hiding. They moved to Mercer's car, where the lighting was better. Ariana sat straight, looking directly into the phone camera. No anger in her voice, no accusations she couldn't prove, just facts. My name is Ariana Brooks. I'm a graduate student at Hawthorne State University. On October 15th, Madison Whitaker slapped me in front of hundreds of witnesses. I defended myself. The next day, I was suspended while she faced no consequences. She held up printed emails showing the decision was made before her hearing. This document proves Dean Richard Holloway planned my punishment in advance. These financial records show payments to families who agreed not to press charges against Grant Whitaker. These security logs show footage being deliberately destroyed. Nia filmed while Ariana methodically presented evidence. Dates, names, document numbers. Everything a reporter would need to verify independently. I'm not the first student this happened to. Lena Ortiz, Marcus Reed, Simone Bell, all forced out after reporting the same family, all silenced by the same system. The statement took 12 minutes. Clean, professional, devastating. Mercer uploaded it to a secure server and began sending links. Claire Voss first, along with the complete evidence file, then the Chronicle of Higher Education, student press organizations, civil rights attorneys who specialized in university discrimination cases. By 10 a.m., Claire called back. "My editor is reviewing everything," she said, her voice tight with excitement. "This is bigger than we thought. We're running the story this afternoon." "Others will too," Mercer replied. "I sent copies everywhere." Ariana's phone rang. Marcus Reed, calling from across the country. "I saw your statement," he said. "I'll go on camera. It's time." Then Lena texted, "Ready to tell my story." Finally, Nia got a call from Simone. Her sister's voice shook, but her words were clear. "I kept copies of everything. I want them to see what they did to me." By noon, Claire's story was live. The headline read, "Systematic Cover-Up: How Hawthorne State Protected Wealthy Students While Silencing Victims." Other outlets followed within hours. Student newspapers, local television, social media exploded as the evidence spread beyond the university's control. Ariana watched from her dorm window as crowds gathered outside Holloway Hall. Students carrying signs, "Justice for Simone," "Holloway must go," "Protect survivors." Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "The truth is out. Thank you. P.W." Patrice Wynn was watching too. Madison's Instagram went dark. Grant's Twitter disappeared. Local reporters surrounded the Whitaker family mansion, but no one came outside. Ariana pulled on her jacket and headed for the door. The crowd outside was chanting her name now. Students who had turned against her were learning the truth. She stepped into the hallway, then walked toward the protest, no longer alone. The emergency trustee meeting convened at 6 p.m. inside Holloway Hall's main conference room. Board members filed in with grim faces, their expensive suits wrinkled from hurried travel. Media vans lined the street outside while students pressed against the windows, chanting for justice. Ariana walked through the front doors with her allies. Nia stayed close to her sister Simone, whose hands trembled as she clutched a folder of documents. Lena wore her diner uniform, having come straight from work. Marcus had flown in that afternoon, his jaw set with determination. Professor Mercer guided them past security guards who looked confused about whether to stop them. 3 attorneys waited in the lobby. 2 represented the survivors. The 3rd worked for the federal investigators who had already begun reviewing evidence. "You have no right to be here," Dean Holloway snapped as they approached the conference room. His usual calm had cracked. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. "This is a private board meeting. The public has every right to witness accountability," replied Sarah Martinez, the lead civil rights attorney. She held up a court order, "especially when federal crimes are being discussed." Trustee James Whitaker sat at the head of the polished table, his face red with fury. Madison cowered in the corner, while Grant slouched in his chair, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Other board members whispered frantically among themselves. Holloway tried to regain control. "This meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene when—" "No." Simone Bell stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You don't get to run away again." The room fell silent. Simone had been a ghost for 3 years. Now she stood in the flesh, facing the men who destroyed her future. "Grant Whitaker assaulted me in the library basement," she said, her words echoing off the walls. "When I reported it, Dean Holloway called me into his office. He said my scholarship depended on keeping quiet. He said nobody would believe a girl from my background." Grant shot up from his chair. "That's not what happened. You're lying." "I have recordings," Simone replied calmly. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. Holloway's voice filled the room. "Miss Bell, allegations like these can destroy promising young men. Are you certain you want to proceed? Your financial aid comes up for review next semester." The trustees stared in horror. Several reached for their phones, probably calling lawyers. Madison suddenly screamed, her composure finally shattering. "This is all your fault." She pointed at Ariana with shaking fingers. "You ruined everything. My family, my future, my life. We were fine before you came here." Ariana remained perfectly still. "You were fine because nobody fought back." She nodded to Nia, who connected a laptop to the room's presentation screen. The courtyard video appeared first. Madison slapping Ariana, then swinging again before being taken down. The room watched in silence. "Here's what you did to me," Ariana said. "Now watch what you did to others." The screen switched to older footage. Grant cornering Lena outside the student center. Madison spreading lies about Marcus in the dining hall. Security cameras catching intimidation that was never investigated. Then came the financial records. Trustee Whitaker's emails to Holloway appeared on screen. "This Grant situation needs to disappear. Our family's donation depends on discretion. Payment authorizations to families who withdrew complaints. Budget allocations for legal fees to silence victims. A paper trail of systematic corruption spanning years." The room descended into panic. Trustees shouted over each other. Madison sobbed hysterically. Grant stood frozen, staring at evidence of his own crimes. Trustee Whitaker slammed his fist on the table. "Turn that off! This is privileged information." "Not anymore," said Agent Rebecca Santos, stepping through the doorway with her federal badge visible. Two other investigators followed her into the conference room. The chanting outside grew louder as students saw the federal agents enter. Camera flashes lit up the windows. Board members looked desperately toward exits that were already blocked. Agent Santos approached Dean Holloway, who had gone pale. "Richard Holloway, we need you to come with us for questioning regarding civil rights violations and obstruction of justice." Holloway's hands shook as handcuffs clicked into place. The next morning, Hawthorne's campus woke to national headlines screaming across every news channel and social media platform. Students stumbled out of dorms, clutching phones, reading stories that made their university infamous overnight. Federal investigation exposes years of cover-ups at elite university. Trustee family protected son's assault history. Records show. Dean arrested in civil rights investigation. Ariana sat in her dorm room, watching the coverage with her mother, Evelyn, who had driven through the night to be there. The phone hadn't stopped ringing since 6 in the morning. "Channel 7 wants an interview," Evelyn said, scrolling through messages. "So does CNN, Fox, and something called TikTok News." "Not yet," Ariana replied. She was still processing everything. 3 days ago, she was packing to leave in defeat. Now federal agents were walking through campus with boxes of evidence. A knock interrupted them. Nia stood in the doorway, grinning wider than Ariana had ever seen. "You need to see this," Nia said, pulling up a university email on her phone. The message came from Acting President Catherine Mills, who had replaced the board after half the trustees resigned overnight. It was short and direct. "Following a thorough review of evidence, Madison Whitaker has been permanently expelled from Hawthorne State University, effective immediately. Her enrollment records will reflect academic dishonesty and violation of the Student Conduct Code. All appeals have been denied." Ariana felt something loosen in her chest. Real consequences. Finally. "That's not all," Nia continued, scrolling down. "Grant's been arrested. Assault charges, witness intimidation, and something called conspiracy to violate civil rights. His bail hearing is this afternoon." They walked outside together, where students were gathering around the campus bulletin boards. Someone had printed dozens of news articles and posted them everywhere. Groups huddled together, reading aloud and pointing at photos of Dean Holloway being led away in handcuffs. Professor Mercer approached them, looking relieved but exhausted. His suspension had been lifted an hour ago, along with a formal apology from the acting administration. "Patrice Wynn surfaced," he told them. "Her attorney released a statement. She's been hiding in her sister's house in Ohio, terrified they'd fire her or worse. She documented everything for 3 years, waiting for someone brave enough to fight." "Where is she now?" Ariana asked. "Safe. The FBI has her under protection while she testifies. Turns out she copied financial records too. The whole trustee payment system, legal bribes, everything." More students gathered as word spread. Ariana noticed many faces she didn't recognize. People who had avoided her during the harassment, now looking ashamed and curious. A maintenance crew arrived at the Holloway Academic Building, carrying tools and a ladder. Students cheered as workers pried the bronze nameplate from the wall. Dean Richard Holloway's name, which had hung there for 15 years, clattered into a cardboard box. "They're renaming it after Dr. Sarah Martinez," Nia explained. "She was the first Latina administrator here, fought for student rights in the 80s before they forced her out." Ariana's phone buzzed with another message from Acting President Mills. "Ms. Brooks, your suspension has been formally expunged from all university records. You will receive full scholarship reinstatement, priority course registration, and campus housing of your choice. We also extend our deepest apologies for the institutional failures that led to this situation. Her mother read over her shoulder. "Full scholarship," Evelyn whispered, tears starting. "Baby, you did it." Around them, the courtyard filled with students, faculty, and reporters. Camera crews filmed the nameplate removal, while interview requests poured in. Ariana saw Simone approaching through the crowd, walking taller than she had in years. "The university called me this morning," Simone told them. "Formal apology. They're reopening every complaint that was buried. Marcus, Lena, all of us. And they're creating a victim compensation fund." The crowd grew larger as more people heard the news. Someone started clapping. Others joined in. Soon the entire courtyard erupted in applause, not for any speech or ceremony, but for the simple sight of justice becoming visible. Ariana stood beside Nia and Evelyn, watching corrupt names disappear from buildings, while honest voices finally found their power. Several months later, Ariana walked across the same brick courtyard where Madison Whitaker had slapped her face. The October air carried the scent of falling leaves and fresh possibilities. Students hurried past, backpacks heavy with books. Their conversations focused on midterms and weekend plans instead of whispered gossip about harassment and cover-ups. Hawthorne had changed. The bronze plaque on the newly renamed Martinez Student Advocacy Building gleamed in the afternoon sunlight. Inside that building, the Independent Student Reporting Office operated with real authority and protected funding. No more dismissive assistance. No more complaints that vanished overnight. 3 full-time advocates worked with trained investigators to ensure every report received proper attention. Ariana paused near the steps, remembering her first terrifying visit to Dean Holloway's office. That same space now housed Acting President Mills, who had spent months rebuilding trust through transparent policies and public accountability measures. Her phone buzzed with a message from Professor Mercer. "Congratulations again on the fellowship. The Washington Post internship starts in January, right? You've earned every opportunity coming your way." The full graduate fellowship had arrived 6 weeks ago, along with housing priority and academic support services. But more importantly, the university had restored scholarships for 12 other students whose aid had been quietly revoked after filing complaints. Marcus Reed returned to finish his degree. Lena Ortiz re-enrolled with full funding and counseling support. Ariana walked past the fountain where Madison's friends used to gather, plotting their next humiliation. Now, a diverse group of students sat there, peacefully, studying together without fear of social retaliation. Nia Bell led discussions twice weekly, helping newcomers navigate campus resources and report problems safely. The Simone Bell Student Advocacy Group had grown from 3 founding members to over 200. Nia had named it after her sister, ensuring that Simone's courage would inspire future students who faced similar battles. The group maintained emergency funds, legal resources, and peer support networks that the administration could never dismantle again. Through the journalism building windows, Ariana could see Professor Mercer's classroom filled with engaged students. His campus ethics series had been published in 12 national outlets, examining how institutional silence protected powerful predators while sacrificing vulnerable victims. The articles sparked policy changes at universities across the country, creating ripple effects far beyond Hawthorne's borders. Students passed behind Ariana, chatting about professors and assignments. Their casual comfort represented everything she had fought to preserve. They could focus on education instead of survival. They could speak up without fearing retaliation. They could trust that reports would be investigated rather than buried. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory from last month's ceremony, when Hawthorne had honored Ariana with the Student Justice Award. "You didn't fight because you wanted to hurt anyone. You fought because someone had to stand up." Evelyn Brooks had watched proudly from the audience as Ariana addressed the crowd, carefully explaining that she did not celebrate violence, but celebrated the refusal to be broken by bullies, who believed power made them untouchable. During that speech, Ariana had emphasized that her martial arts training was never about aggression. It was about discipline, respect, and protecting herself when peaceful solutions failed. She had defended herself in that courtyard because silence would have encouraged Madison to target other students next. Now Ariana approached the exact spot where Madison's hand had struck her cheek. The fountain bubbled peacefully nearby, reflecting afternoon clouds instead of witnessing public humiliation. That slap was meant to remind her of her place, to force her into submission, to prove that rich students could abuse anyone without consequences. Instead, it had exposed an entire network of corruption. Ariana smiled as more students passed safely behind her, knowing the bullies had finally lost. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.